hello there. Hey to Coach Kev. Hey to all. I just put us both up. I'm not doing the doorbell tonight because I know we were going to have a lot to say. So he just got on panel. How you doing, Coach Kev?
I'm excellent. Thanks for having me, Silk. Excited to dive into what we got to dive into tonight.
Oh, me too. I love this case, and you have what I love about having you on as my stream is that you have such an air of authority, and like you really know what you're talking about. I know sometimes people don't know what they're talking about, and they sound like they do, but I think you do know what you're talking about. And it gives it a very I like that. I like that in a guest.
Oh,
Uh,
thank you.
so yeah, and I was just telling Coach Kev right before we went on. I said I wasn't going to do Delphi, and y'all, I'm calling myself out as a liar. I am going to drop, it's a very, very short video. I'm just going to direct you to another video that I want you to watch and tell me what you think, and then we're going to discuss it. I'm working this weekend, so we'll pick a day next week and we'll discuss it. But please put in the comments. I think I'm going to drop it like at 5 a.m. or something tomorrow morning. So tell me what you think. You've probably heard rumors. I heard rumors, and I only watched it last night, and I was like, holy crap, if this is true. Jeez. All right. But tonight we are talking about the Gilgo Beach, Long Island serial killer case. And let me tell you, man, this one, I love it and I hate it at the same time. I get really, really mad about the backstory. Really, really glad they've got somebody in custody. How are you feeling about it?
Oh, I agree too. It's like from the police point of view, it shows you the best and the worst of police in one case, and how
Mm-hmm.
fast people that want to get the case solved actually did get it solved. But it's horrible too. But it's one of them things that it's gone on so long that it's hard not to ignore or to get it come in. Then they arrest this guy who's this big hulking ogre, which was the description the one witness used.
Yeah.
It's all, yeah, it's wild to say the least.
It is, and again, the backstory makes me angry, and we're gonna talk. We're coming, with two different things. Coach Kev is going to talk about the profiling, and I am going to talk about, and I'm going to let him go first because there's a lot to the profile, I'm sure, and then the reason I hate that I did not start this case like the day it broke. But I was at work and then I was researching, and by the time I had found out all this information, by the time it hit News Nation or whatever, I still hadn't put out my first video on it. And I'm like, okay, well, that's my fault. But I have some things that I found on Reddit that are no longer there. The user has been deleted, and it just so happened that very day I was on Reddit on the computer at work and on it on my phone, and yeah, it disappeared off my phone. So I have some really bad screenshots, but I'll read them to you, and we'll talk about that as well as some new news that broke either. I want to tell you it was maybe this morning, yesterday. It was recent on this case. So you go ahead and start us off, Coach Kev.
All right. Well, thank you. Well, first of all, everyone that doesn't know me, I'm Coach Kev. I'm a fireman in McKeesport, Pennsylvania. So I'm not a profiler. My brother's attorney general agent. We work with the cops a lot and stuff. But I got very into this about 2 years ago. So I'm kind of regurgitating what all the key people that are in the industry. Dr. Ann Burgess, she's like the Michael Jordan of this. She was the lady in Mindhunter that they did on. Dr. Burkado, a lot of these people, John Kelly, and the guy that I always talk about, of course, one of my favorites, and I share his stuff. He's the writer for Jim Clemente, the writer for Criminal Minds. So I'm kind of regurgitating all this. When I tell you I'm theorizing something, I'll make sure I tell you that this is coming from me and not them. But these folks are spot on. So the first thing with Rex Heuerman, let's assume, he got to be proven guilty. A lot of evidence. We'll get more. but let's assume he's the guy. Would he fit what they said originally, profile wise? Yeah, he kind of marks all the boxes. But one of the things I heard today that was very interesting, the first thing they need to do, and they're doing this with BTK now. They didn't do it with him before, because I'll tell you something about that later. It's really interesting. They need to make a timeline his whole life from his. We knew that his dad died when he was 11, 1975. That had a huge impact on his life. I can almost guarantee you things went south there. Either mom was dominating, always over top of him, couldn't do enough good, or mom coddled and babied him, because that's what we see from these offenders. And I have a theory of my own. Dr. Burke brought something up that all this is happening for dad. If this is Rex Heuerman, he's somehow showing dad, hey, look, I can do this. I can get girls. I don't know what exactly it was. I think it has a lot to do with duck hunting. This is me theorizing. Prior to them, I didn't know that was a duck hunting area. I'm not a hunter or fisher, even though I'm from Pennsylvania. I was like a jock in high school. If the world would end, I'd be in trouble without electricity. Let me tell you right now. So that is a place to duck hunt. They use these, he called them burlap nets. Rex Heuerman called them that to that date he was on. So I looked, what do you do with these nets? You have your ducks, you put them in there and you drag them in or out. Obviously, they were hard to see. He's a criminally sophisticated, but he's using burlap sacks, which is unsophisticated. A lot of DNA on there. So to me, that burlap sacks have to have there's a huge reason he's doing that. He could use plastic. Plastic's harder to trace, harder for stuff to stay on. Actually, that kills DNA, as we're finding out from these police are talking. So when they come out with a paper bag, usually it's blood or DNA. This is from Duty Ron's podcast, former NYPD guy. And there was a guy that was on there and they were explaining that. So anytime you see, not anytime, but most times when they have paper, it's blood or DNA. When it's plastic, it could be a weapon or whatever. Not always, but a lot of times. So from that whole angle and looking back at this, he was 6'6". They called him Heuerman Munster, which is Herman Munster. If there's any young people that don't remember that. Heuerman Munster. He's this big hulking guy, so he picks girls that are especially small. He's taken his, and this is me theorizing, he's taken his disability that he's views, being this big hulking ogre and can't get no girls, I can't fit in. Now he's picking smaller girls, and he's using that to his advantage. And it all goes back to that. It's something, I don't know, his rejection with women. I think his dad's involved. We'll find out. What I can guarantee you, I'll put my little reputation on the line, which isn't very much. But if he's found guilty, or even before then, or if he pleads guilty, he's going to talk. He's going to be a guy that yaps and yaps. He's going to want to tell you everything. He's going to be the Ed Kemper type. You're not going to be able to shut this guy up. That's my prediction on that. But so that's what I come in on all the cases, like the profile and looking at that. Jim Clemente said that this guy would be financially stable. They also predicted, and John Kelly agreed, they didn't think he'd have a substance abuse problem. And most people don't know this. Most serial killers, and I don't want to quote a number, but it's got to be more than 3/4 have substance abuse or alcohol problems. All of them. So that would be unusual. You look at this guy, you can't say, I don't know if he's a boozer or not. But the other thing that was weird, Jim Clemente said that this will be explained at some point. He was treated for poison ivy at a hospital at some point, and he would never explain what that information was from. And I still don't know. That's bizarre. But did they identify some kind of cream on the bag? And they said this cream is treated as prescription poison ivy relief or something like that. But keep that in mind, folks. That's a weird thing, but let's see if it comes back and is right. He said he'd be from that area, all that stuff. And they hit it pretty spot on. But the financially stable thing, like he would be like a business owner, basically, they predicted. So from that point of view, those guys were pretty good, but there's so much other stuff to it. And I truly believe we're going to find out all this. He's going to, if it's him, and I believe it's him, he's going to say all this. And I don't know how many more bodies they're going to link to him. Is it possible that there's 2 serial killers dumping there? It's possible, but nobody could like say a case where it's happened before. Serial killers don't work in tandem by and large.
And that area at Gilgo Beach is so remote. That's what I keep hearing. Yeah. It's like it would be really crazy strange for 2 serial killers to be using the same dumping grounds. Yeah, and I agree with you on. I think if he knows that it's the end of the road and he's caught and there's no getting out, I absolutely agree that he's going to sing yes. Because this is his. I don't know. This is his pride. This is his accomplishment, and he's absolutely going to talk about it.
Yeah, what the profilers will tell you too, this is their artwork. It's sick and
Yeah.
twisted, but in order to understand the artist, you have to understand the artwork. So these guys have all the crime scene photos and everything else, and they're able to. But as we get into the police investigation, he should have been off the streets in 2010, 2011, probably. And we don't know if there's been any victims after that. But if there was, that's directly on that police chief and that district attorney. 1,000% that would be on them if anything else turns up. Or elsewhere, all these other places, South Carolina, Vegas. The guy went to Alaska, who knows? So I'm assuming they're searching all over wherever he was, and they're searching and they're doing whatever they're doing, and we'll hear if they find anything else. So
Yeah. Yeah. They are, and that's. But here's the thing. I know we've got the Gilgo Beach. We've got other places that they're looking for possible connections to him, but I have a feeling that there are a lot of missing and unalived people that I don't know if they're connected to him, but I think there's a lot going on in that area, and it very likely is not just Heuerman. That's just my opinion.
well, in that period of time too, you're talking 30 years. 1996 is when Karen Vergata, who they identified today, disappeared. 30 years. They were even going back to Joel Rifkin, who was the original Long Island serial killer, like from I think he went away in the mid 90s, I believe. And they were asking him, and he's another dude he'll say anything. I don't have any empathy. And I know that that's wrong, but I'm not going to lie to you. I don't care. They deserve. But so I would think if it'd go to him, he would see maybe I'll get 10 more minutes of fame. What are you going to do? Put me to death again in New York? They're not going to kill me.
Yeah.
So I'll go in. But he said no, it wasn't him. So, but it's definitely possible. 100%. There's strange characters in that area. If you watch the movie Lost Girls on Netflix, pretty
Yes.
good. What's her name? Oh God, I always call her the coal miner's daughter. Sissy Spacek, Gabriel Byrne, really good actors in this, and they point the finger at the doctor. And then I researched the doctor before I saw this, and the doctor before the girl that went missing on the phone, the 911 call, before they knew she was missing, called the mom and said, "Hey, I run a wayward home for girls, and I had to give your daughter a sedative because she was freaking out last night, and I'm sorry she's missing." And her mom's like, "What? What are you talking about?" The doctor lied about it. Later, he was called out because the police proved that it was him. The original investigators, Chief Yo-Yo and the district attorney, Numbnuts, they're like, "Oh, we ruled him out." The reporters interviewed this guy. You could look this up on YouTube. They interviewed him. He faked a heart attack on the interview going into his car. Bizarre behavior usually means some kind of guilt or some kind of mental situation. And he falls down. Then he gets up and he's like, "Oh, it was my defibrillator going off." And the reporter, no one buys it. They just like still hold the microphone. He's laying on the ground like, "Are you okay?" And then he looks and he gets up. So
yeah, that doctor. If y'all are looking to look him up, I'm gonna say his name isn't it Peter Hackett?
Yeah, Hackett, Dr. Hackett. Yeah,
Dr. Hackett. Yeah.
Beyond bizarre.
Yeah, and I don't believe in weird coincidences usually. And even if he's not the perpetrator, I cannot believe that he does not know pretty much what happened.
Yeah.
Because she was found right there.
Yeah.
Shannon Gilbert.
Yeah, so in his backyard, basically.
Yeah. So you're going to tell me you had relations with her and she ran down the street and you're like, I don't know what happened. I don't know.
Yeah. So
give me a break.
He made this call to her mother, and as far as I know, the police never pressed him. Once they were proved that he made the call through phone records, I don't think they ever pressed him and said, "Hey," but that's when you get back into the police chief, because you can link him with Dr. Hackett. You can link all these guys with these wild sex parties where they were doing various drugs. the police chief had finally admitted it when he went to prison. So all these folks were in. Joseph Brewer was the guy that was in the 911 call that you hear. Pack was the guy. Michael Pack was the driver. Those are the guys you hear on the 911 tape. Police said they have both been interviewed, and from what I can understand, and I don't even know if you should say the word anymore, cleared, but those were the original things. Are they clear now? Are they looking into these guys? Because Shannon Gilbert was the girl's name who called. She said it to Pack, "Are you in on this? Were you in on this too?" And they said, "Oh, she was drunk or she was out of her mind. She ran out and she fell and she drowned." Well, a second autopsy says no. She was manual strangulation, or I think homicidal strangulation is what they wrote. There's a bone that's broke in your throat, and almost anytime someone strangled, they saw that. And
exactly,
they said there was no drugs found on her. But how are you finding? How are you testing the body if it's been there for so long? I don't know if you can pull drug or alcohol off a skeleton. Maybe you can. I don't know, but I don't know. But there's just too many coincidences there, Silky. You can't not think that this stuff's involved. All these people are involved in some way, shape, or form. Or maybe there was a group of guys. They would have parties, and once in a while, they look at these women as disposable women. Like
exactly.
None of these women at 8 years old sat on their bed and said, "I want to grow up to be addicted to heroin and have to sell myself to be able to eat food." None of them said that. Yeah. Not a single one. So, and even in some police departments, even without these goofs here, they're like, "Well, they're prostitutes. Yeah, they ran away. We'll never." No, you need to look for them. It doesn't matter what the job is. They're here every night, and all of a sudden they're not here, and they didn't tell none of their friends. No, something's wrong. So.
But don't you think we as society, and I don't mean you personally, Coach Kev, but I think we perpetrate this, and it's our attitude. Well, they were in that, they were an addict, they were in this kind of lifestyle, they knew it was dangerous. I think we have become conditioned as a society to not take it as seriously. You know what I'm saying? That's just my opinion, but I think that we have to change that. I just do.
Yeah. A lot of society is marginalized, and I'm from an inner city, and we have violence all the time, and you hear people all say all the time, like, "Well, young kids are shooting or killing each other," and what they'll say is, "Oh, the young black kids are shooting and killing." No, they're kids, you idiot! Don't you understand what you're saying? These are kids, and how do we change it? We don't change it without asking tough questions, but you look at anytime that the working girls or escorts, whatever you want to call them. And I see all these articles, sex workers. We have all these terms for everything, because we don't want to part of it's good. Some people's feelings get hurt too easy, but we shouldn't try to hurt people's feelings. I don't like to be called it, okay? There ain't a better term than sex worker. It's every article that you read, sex worker, escorts even sounds better than that. But whatever your job is, or whatever you do, or whatever you're addicted to, it doesn't give anyone else the right to kill you because you're someone's daughter, son, brother, mother. In the case, the lady today. And the lady today too, I believe she was a parent. I don't have it written down, but she was identified October 22nd.
Yeah.
They couldn't find the family or get a hold of someone from the family until just recently. So that's why. So if you see that she was identified October 22nd, the police knew who she was, but they couldn't reach next of kin until just recently. That's what they said. So
I caught that, I was distracted when that was coming on, but that's not the one that they called Peaches, right?
No. Peaches is still. I think Peaches is still unidentified.
Okay, that's what I was thinking.
There was another one that they called Cherry Tattoo. I believe, I can't remember which girl it was, but if I'm not mistaken, she was identified. I'm not sure which one that was, but that was only a nickname. Yeah, because they were tattoo artists called in. I can't remember which girl that was. They were talking about. Actually, that might not be one of the Gilgo 4. That might be in the bigger, the 10 group with the you had there was an Asian guy who was either transsexual or was posing or whatever. You had the woman with the baby, the infant. So those are all in extended. We don't know if they're going to be in yet, but I'll tell you what, I think for sure you're going to see Maureen Brainerd Barnes. That'll be the 4th one that he'll be charged with very soon because he only has 3 charges right now. The Gilgo 4, and then today's Karen might end up getting linked to him too. I don't know, but I think the Brainerd Barnes stuff, they're running tests on stuff right now for that. So we should hear pretty quick, I think, on that.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that was really good and brilliant police work. Unfortunately, it only started in, pretty much in 2022. Within a month, they had him from the time the new
Oh
police
yeah,
commissioner came in January of 2022 to February. That's 30 days, y'all, for this case that has been going on for what, how many years? We don't even know because we don't know when the first
yeah,
victim was.
you're
But
right.
we know it's been going on, what, at least 13 years? It took 30 days for them to get him on their radar after they stopped their, playing. They stopped playing and they stopped fighting, and I'll talk about that in a few minutes because man, do I get heated about that. But yeah, and I think what is the reason that Brainerd Barnes hasn't been identified? Are they still looking for DNA on her to match? Is it still at the lab? What is it?
I'm guessing this is just a guess, but I'm guessing that I'm assuming that maybe she doesn't have any of the hairs, like the wife hairs on her, like the
Oh,
three.
okay.
That's a guess. I don't know, but they are definitely running something from the lab, and I'm interested to see if there's any DNA hits from any of the girls in the house. It came out today too that in that vault, that room that he had with all the guns, there was a mattress in there too. That came out today. There was a mattress on the ground.
Oh, okay.
Multiple news outlets were reporting that right after the press conference today. And then another one wouldn't confirm something that I said. I thought it was confirmed 2 weeks ago. I put it out there like it was the gospel because I saw it many places. Was the belt? The belt was William Heuerman. That was his grandfather. That was the
Mm-hmm.
WH. So what the guy said today was, yeah, the belt isn't Rex Heuerman's initials, but they believe it's going to be a member of the families. And if you look, his dad was Theodore, so that's William. That's the grandfather's belt. And why he would leave that there, it's almost like you want to get caught, or that's
Yeah.
this guy drinking and doing coke or something. He's making these mistakes, or what, or is it just total ineptitude by the police force for about 13 years? And it might just be that.
I mean, it very well could be that. There's something else that is a possible explanation for those initials. I don't know if it's true or not. I'll talk about that later. But then I also have to think, how a lot of these perpetrators are. They love the perfect crime. He was one of these people that likes to taunt and he would call the victims and all this kind of stuff. So I have to think, did he leave that there knowing it wasn't his just to, I don't know, just to ramp it up maybe so he could scoot out again? Was it, because BTK did some weird stuff at the end, that got him, caught. So it makes me wonder, was he just playing games? Is that why the belt was there? Uh, or did he think that I don't know. Who did he know? Did he think that he was above being caught? Who knows?
That's possible too. And people pointed the finger at Burke, the old police chief, because he's dirty as it
Mm-hmm.
was. I can't rule that out because I wouldn't put nothing past that guy. Two things with Heuerman. So once we know for sure, to me, I'm convinced, and we'll find out officially, he was calling the sister, the victim, telling her that he essayed her and he unalived her and all this. That makes him a sadist. So that tells me a couple things
Yes.
about him. He cannot achieve what he wants to achieve to fulfill himself, if you know where I'm going, unless
Yeah.
he's inflicting pain on someone else. Some people are masochists. They need pain inflicted on them in order for them to get off or whatever. So this is Hugh. This tells me, and the girls are bound. So there's
Yeah.
torture going on. So he's 100% a sadist. The phone call lines up with the way the bodies were discovered. Now, some of these other ones were, there was dismemberment and stuff. I don't know if that's him or not. But the other thing I got to say about Heuerman, he came pretty proficient at doing this, right? And in 1996, I think he would have been 36 years old. The average serial killer starts, it's changed. It used to be 26. Now you see it younger. But let's say 25 to 30 is when they're starting.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And they're getting good. So they're doing these crimes, and it isn't always murder. It's burglary, watching people sleep, going in their drawers and taking
Hey,
that stuff.
CJ.
That's a predecessor, or that's a lead up into some serial sexual acts or serial homicides, whatever they're doing. So let's go back. Was that going on somewhere there? Did he do that as a kid? Was he a peeping Tom? They need an entire timeline of his life. And you're talking about BTK. He's getting looked at for cold cases. His daughter just said that today.
Yeah.
And she said, I can't really talk about it, but they never did a timeline with my dad. And they thought BTK just kind of cooled off or aged out, but he might not have. There might be more to BTK, and there she couldn't say a lot, but the FBI is investigating it. So there could be more BTK murders that are assigned to him, and that dude can't shut the F up. So he'll be in court again, like, oh yeah, on this day, and it's just his daughter. Yeah. Such a strong woman. If you get a chance to go see her,
I know it, boy, I know it. Let me say hi to Evil CJ. Oh, good to see you. I know you don't. He's so busy. He is so busy. I was on his live yesterday, so I just wanted to give him a shout out. Hope you get where you're going safe. Yeah, the BTK, that's a whole narcissistic mess. But they're talking about, oh well, Heuerman did Gilgo Beach, and then he kind of retired. I don't believe it. I don't believe he started there, and I don't believe he ended there. It's just he is too. I could see maybe some serial killers taking a break. I don't think Heuerman, unless he had somebody to torment that gave him, whether it was in business or something else, he was going to have an outlet for that. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
And so I think that he probably has a lot. I think they'll probably find a lot on him as time passes.
I agree too. And like I said, he got pretty good at this, and these guys and these gals that do this, they don't, they perfect. So the longer they go, the more evidence there is, right, by cases and volume, but the less they leave at the scene because they know what works for them. They know this MO works, this works, and that works. So if he's the guy, I mean, we could talk 96. You can go back to 86. You could go back, and back then, before DNA and stuff like that, did they keep any? And then the way that working girls were thought of then was even worse than it is now. And, who knows? Unless he tells us, he might want to tell us. And if he could tell us and he could corroborate where they're all at, then, that might be the only way to give some of these families relief. But at the same time, he's getting off on that too. So it's like a trade-off.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure business-wise, look, you're talking about somebody in Manhattan. I mean, I've been to Manhattan. Yeah. Like that's the big time. Where are you going to go in the U.S. that's bigger than Manhattan? For your business. And so I'm sure there was an element of him that really thought that he was never going to be a suspect, and if he was, he could probably buy somebody off. Yeah.
And they said in business too, he would come in and as this architect, and he would rub people the wrong way because he was so arrogant. He'd be telling the project manager this and that, and it's the way he carried himself. And he had this big, larger than life. He had these big gregarious hand motions where he's hulking over top of you and he's putting his power over you. And if you watch the interview that French architect did, I still think the FBI might have put him up to that because he asked the perfect questions. He brought a dog. Took the power away from Heuerman immediately. This dog's in here, and he's like, come back to my desk. That desk is where I think he made these communications. That desk is his lair. That's his sanctum. That's where he's safe. He brought that guy right back there. They shook hands, and their handshakes were all disjointed because Heuerman is socially inept. He acts like he is socially inept, and that's something else that Jim Clemente said in his profile. And they call it cubing. You have different faces. So if you're a cube, you turn. This is what you show when you're an architect. This is what you show at home. This is what you show when you're with these girls. And he was able to do that for, it might end up being for almost 40 years if we go by the ages and we look back that far. So I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I agree. There was definitely. I never thought about it though, because the day that he was arrested, I threw that up on my community page. I found that video of him, and I was like, I watched it a little bit. I was like, okay, y'all, this is weird. But I never thought about that possibly have been a tactic to interview him that way. You're right. He did all of the things to make him uncomfortable.
Yeah,
Wouldn't
and
that be something?
they were like perfect. Well, I got that from Behavior Panel, which is a show I watch about body language experts. And then one guy's like, it's this guy's asking the perfect questions. He doesn't say that he thinks that he's a plant, but he's like, this is the perfect. Then he asks him about, tell us your best hero story about yourself, basically. And Heuerman sits back and he's like, oh, goodness gracious, that's the great. I'll talk
Yeah,
about myself forever. You could see his fingers when you're talking to someone and their fingers are like this, they're tense. It doesn't mean they're lying, but they're tense.
right.
Like this, and we're spread apart. Hey, man, now did you see that game last night? When we're like this, we're talking about something serious. And then
Mm-hmm.
Heuerman's talking about the hammer, and he can use it to move objects or other things. And he's out here, and then as soon as he says like another object, he pulls his hands back in, and that's the primal sense saying, "Shut up." You know what I mean? Shut up. And the interviewer's like, "Oh, go ahead. Tell me more. Tell me more." And he did exactly the right thing. And that's what these ladies and gentlemen that went into these prisons and said with these inmates, just let them talk. You can either get them to talk and open them up, but once they start talking, sit back and just shut up and let them tell you whatever they want to tell you. You know what I mean? And that's usually what happens with people like that.
Hey, yeah, CJ. I don't know what Coach Kev's schedule is. Um, but yeah,
Oh, let me know for sure. Even if it's not this floor, anything, I'd love to come on. I'm sorry I couldn't make the one that they had, that they were doing the one night. I had basketball, I think, but
okay, I will. I'll hit you up on Discord. I know. What is this week? This coming week. This coming week, I know I've got Tuesday, unless it's later in the evening. But I know I can do Tuesday. I'm off that day, so that's my schedule. But yeah, we'll talk about it. Absolutely.
and
Love CJ.
there's a ton of good information out on this. This isn't like some other cases that we may have talked about or covered where there's a lot of stuff that isn't out. Boom, 32-page PCA. Boom, here's this, here's that. And they're not saying everything, but there's a ton of information. And you know what? There's a lot of old documentaries that were made before the arrest. Go watch those too. Those were all really good. There's a lot of them out there.
Yeah. Uh, eh, there are. I like Lost Girls. I think that one. It's so. The problem with that one is they were. Well, it was about Shannon Gilbert though. It wasn't about
Yeah.
everybody, and they were kind of lumping them together. But Shannon really wasn't part of that, and I think it only left you with the idea of, Peter Hackett. However, what I wish they had put in that is the Jim Burke, Thomas Spota stuff. But I would love to. I'm trying to get my hands on the book Jimmy the King, and when I went to Amazon the other day, it was sold out. They said they'd get some more. I want to read that book.
Yeah.
That is, well, we'll get into that, but yeah, that is the part that drives me nuts on this whole case.
It's got to be frustrating. And the sad thing with the Lost Girls and the Gilberts, obviously, then the mother, and went through what she went, well, passed away from the sister, and the sister had, that whole story, what happened after. And it was like, because of her, so to speak, the police said, that's why they discovered the other girls. And then they're all together. And then all of a sudden there's a press conference where she's not involved in it, but she's the one that brought all the attention on it. So then you see the Sissy Spacek character, how it must have just ripped her apart, but she wouldn't quit. And, I'd like to think that they were out there searching for her because of what mom did, not because the dog was going to the bathroom and started hitting on something. But maybe that was the universe's way of saying, you know what, this police force is pretty sucky right now. So
Yeah.
here's what we're going to do. You're going to stop here, and then we're going to force you to investigate this. But either way, it worked out. But I feel for her and her
Yeah.
family, what they went through. Because if that wouldn't have happened with Shannon, that wouldn't have happened with mom and sister. I really truly believe it would not have happened.
I hate to bring this up. Do you know what happened to mom and sister?
Yeah.
It's sad. I won't talk about it, y'all. Y'all can look it up. It is pretty tragic. But one of Shannon's sisters has done, I think, a lot of interviews and talked about the mental health issues and
Yeah,
everything, So, and she's been a great, again, like you said about BTK's daughter. Like,
yeah.
how much strength do you have to like talk about, especially your dad, but your family in this kind of way,
Her,
genuinely. I'll
her,
leave it there.
heard another. She wouldn't say who it was, or she didn't mention on the show I was watching. The show I was watching is called Surviving the Survivor. That's Dr. Burgess is on there, Dr. Bricado. It's a really, they have all kind of people on there. But she was on there, and her and another one, she didn't name who it was, but her father was a serial killer too. They actually started a GoFundMe for Heuerman's wife and kids, because I'm sure a lot of you know Heuerman's wife and kids were using food stamps to shop. And there's a couple of different reasons for that. And I can tell you in Pennsylvania, my wife works with now older people, and they get SNAP, it's called. It's like our food stamp program or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But you might make a certain amount of money, and it doesn't matter. If you have an adult disabled child or something, they may give you money for that child a month, and it comes on a card. It comes on
Yeah.
the same card that would come on. So people might get child support on that card. Like the state pays everything on that card. So it doesn't necessarily mean it's food stamps, but if they were, maybe Rex just, that's how he treated them. And that was his way of abusing the family. Maybe it wasn't physical. Maybe he was controlling and says, well, here, you only have enough money for this. I have enough money to build a bank vault in the basement for 249 guns, classic guns, but I don't have money for you to go grocery store. So go sign up for stamps. So that's possible that's too. And that was his way of controlling. It's abuse. It's a way of financially abusing them.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that was, and this is, maybe I don't know how to say this and not make anybody mad, but she was from another country, was she not?
She was
His
she was
wife.
she was born in another country, but from what I can understand, she was raised here most of her life. She went back summers, but there could be a customary shift. Like if you say she
Right.
was only there 5 or 6 years, and maybe, and I'm not on it, maybe in Iceland the husband rules the roost, and this is how it is.
Hmm.
So that's just how she grew up. I don't know if that's the case or not, but yeah, you could
I had
tell.
to wonder, though, because he was married before
Yeah,
to
yeah,
somebody. I think her name was Elizabeth, and I don't know that they lasted that long. I don't have the actual records on that, but she was his second wife, and it made me wonder, being the type of person he is, if he would find someone who had a cultural difference to kind of lord it over, because a lot of us, especially as sassy Southern girls, we'll just bury you in the backyard. It ain't happening, you know.
it may have been that, or the serial killers and the mind hunter people, the behavioral science, will tell you the best profilers are these serial killers. They know who to look for. Maybe the first wife was kind of like that, wasn't putting up with none of Rex's shit. And now
Yeah,
he found someone purposely, maybe she had a little bit of different background, sociologically, and she was more of like, you see her getting interviewed. And I don't know, she's always has to be a whirlwind, but she doesn't strike me as a person that's going to be walking in a room. Hey, everybody, how you doing? Rex goes in and she stays in the shadows, and that's what he wants. So he found
right.
a girl like that where he could do
Hmm.
this stuff. And I truly believe that she probably really didn't know anything he was doing. She honestly didn't.
Yeah,
It's crazy to people. Like, how could you not know? But time and time again, they tell us that they don't know, and the police are like, no, they really didn't know. Like you didn't go in this, you didn't go in this closet. Jerry Brutus's wife, she didn't go in the garage where he had pieces of women in the freezer. She just didn't
yeah,
go in the garage. Why didn't she go in the garage? Well, Jerry said don't go in the garage. There was no question. That's what Jerry said. So that's not what we do. So
yeah,
I feel for them too. His wife, and those two
yeah.
kids. I mean, goodness, I mean they're adults, but geez,
I know, and it amazes me. See, to me, that would be the red flag if somebody said, "Don't go in the garage." That's the first thing I'd do. I'd wait till you went to work, and the first thing
yes.
I'd do would be picking that lock, seeing
Yeah.
what's in there.
If I
But
wanted
a
to
lot,
keep you out, I would never say don't go in there. I would just try to give
exactly.
you, like, wouldn't that be the first? Oh,
Yeah,
well, okay, I won't go in there. Yeah,
Right. Yeah. But it is, there are a lot of women like that. And, I heard, I was reading an article this week about her and how, like, people were really giving her a hard time because she went back to the house. She's filed for divorce, but she was at the house and they were sitting on the front porch. And I'm thinking, people are like, why would you go back there? Because now the police are done with their investigation of taking evidence. And I'm like, well, first of all, her son is autistic, so he probably needs that. Something. It's been a while to get him. Maybe he was not handling things well. I imagine it was very traumatic. Plus, like, all your stuff is there. Like, where are you gonna go? Like, I mean, you know what I'm saying? I get it.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't fault her for that. I get exactly why she did that. And I think that people need to leave her alone. And that is the same, uh, I think there were a lot of things. Having a son that's has a disability, that takes a lot of your time, Coach Kev. I mean, as a parent, you're doing all this stuff. Rex is working, he's working late, whatever. She probably, even if she thinks he's having an affair, at this point, she's like, whatever. He's leaving me alone.
Yeah. And the kid's a big kid.
Yes.
And maybe he don't mean to, but I know my girlfriend used to work, but maybe you get knocked down. He knocks you down. He
Yeah.
doesn't mean to do that because he's so big and strong. So, she's probably just physically and mentally just beat, and Rex just does what he does. And
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, I don't. Now I tell you whose wife it really floored me that she didn't know anything, and that was, oh, I've got like a bright light. Sometimes it, there we go. Sometimes it adjusts. Um. Uh. What is that? Fox Hollow Farms. Y'all in Indiana know exactly who I'm talking about. Talked about him. What's his name? Anyway, ba- Baumeister. Herb Baumeister. Remember him? He was the guy that had all the bodies buried in his yard, all over his yard. He had the weird basement with the swimming pool and the mannequins. If you haven't,
they call him like the I something interstate something killer or something too, or
yes, I think they
I don't know
did.
what number it would have been.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, that is one of the strangest cases. But to her, to listen to her talk, like, she seems like a reasonably intelligent woman, but yet she makes statements like, well, they haven't had, these kind of marital relations in like years, like only twice in 20 years or something. I'm like, oh, hold the phone. Okay. Is that not a big red flag that something is not right? So I can kind of see it both ways, but I think that a lot of people don't want to see it. They don't believe, I mean, you may think that you're married to a complete horse's rear end, but that doesn't mean that you think he's a serial killer,
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And in other cases too, they see, a picture of this person. How do you not know? And maybe you do know, but you don't want, like you said, even if you don't have a great relationship, because that's once you acknowledge that yourself, your life's never going to be the same ever again. Even if that isn't that person and he's just accused, your life's never going to be the same again. So maybe people, it's almost like a cognitive dissonance thing or whatever they want to say, where you just like, it's true, but it's like, I can't get past it. And then there's some of these other wives that talk, and you could tell that they're telling the truth, but they sound so naive, and they don't have any friends, and they're only allowed to go shopping when they
right?
and they have an hour to go. So they're totally controlled, manipulated. They almost like act like a child, like submissive to the guy. And,
Yes.
It's all about that. These are who these guys look for. They're drawn to these people to marry them so they can carry their sick fantasies out or whatever it is
Exactly.
that they're doing. You know what I mean? So
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. They know what they're looking for. Well, I think Rex did by the time that he married his second wife. He absolutely, in my opinion, knew what kind of woman he was looking for.
yeah, and if you think not the consensus, but if you think what the textbooks tell you about serial killers, he would have been killing during his first marriage. He would have been. So
Yeah.
I'm very interested to see what she has to say. Not that she knew or covered it up, but hey,
Right.
hey, maybe these dates here we was a girl went missing. Can you name us? Oh yeah, that was our anniversary. We had a big fight. Blah blah blah. He wasn't with me, or whatever the case. And I'm sure the police have already spoken to her or ongoing. And the other thing with his wife now and his kids, they're from Iceland. They might not know too many people around here. Rexa might have kept them in a tight hole, and the police might say, "You can't go back to Iceland right now. I need you to stay here for next month in case we need to talk to you," or whatever the case may be. So they may have nowhere else to go but that house. It'd be nice if somebody had some money and says, "Look, we're going to put you up in a hotel upstate somewhere just to be away from everybody." But apparently they didn't have those means in money because Rex was using it, or he was bringing money in. He, like you say, he had a place in Manhattan. How much was that rent a month for that office in Manhattan?
Oh my gosh, I have no idea. And that's the thing. I mean, his neighbors said like this was the dump of the neighborhood. Everybody else's houses were nice, and you've got this office in Manhattan. How do you even come back to? I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, I bought a fixer upper, and mine is way better looking than that one. I'm like, dear God, how are you living in that mess, Rex?
Yeah, and usually architects are real, fine people. They fix this guy. I worked with a guy who was an architect before he became a fireman, and his food doesn't touch on the plate. You know what I mean? He's super smart. He can't look at a table without seeing if it's straight or not, like stepping back. So, and then you look at this. He had this great big garden, this lush garden. They said they didn't find any human remains there, but I got to think that they found trophies or something like that. Something that's connecting, hopefully, to more victims, so they can put more closure to more families. But I got to think they found something in that room. That's a place of prominence, man. He had a bank vault with all his guns. There, whatever he had, he might have had some shit in that room that was,
That's the thing. I had just heard about the vault and the guns, but until you said it, I had not heard about the mattress. Can you imagine if he had a mattress down there?
Mattress on the floor was reported today from a couple places that were covering the press conference, and they were talking after. That's when they mentioned the belt. They think they're not going to say officially, but they can say it's linked to a family member, a source says. And again, I think that's Grandpa. And I thought that was a given. I talked about about a week ago about that because I was reading other places where they were like, yeah, that's William Heuerman's belt. So maybe the cops spoke out of turn and then walked it back, and then next week or something they'll be like, yeah, whatever the case may be. But
do you think he ever had a victim in that room? I mean, why would you have a vault if you were?
I don't. Here's the thing. He was doing this most of the time, or not all the time, when his wife was away. And during the summer, she's in Iceland, so her hairs could be all over the house, certainly. And even though she's not there, he could pick one up and transfer it to the victim. I think it's a much better scenario, or easier to happen, is if he's taking these victims to his house in her bed in some kind of sick way, doing whatever he's doing. Maybe and the remains are so he might be having them there for a period of time because they're bound. Maybe they're there for a week. Maybe he's doing all this stuff. But it's possible that he picks up a hair from his wife at the house and drops it on them. But 3 different times, you know what I mean? Or hairs on 3 different of the girls. I don't know. I think he had something to do with the house. That mattress down there. I don't know. I don't know how he was doing it or where he was moving them, or if he had another place. Maybe we're going to find out he had some apartment in Manhattan or something that cost a lot of money that he had a bunch of stuff at. Maybe we'll hear that. I don't know, but I don't know. I think he's sick and twisted. I think somebody was in his house at some point. That would be my guess.
That would be mine too. And I think it was a plan, even if he never got to do that. But yeah, I think the odds of him not using that for nefarious reasons are slim.
He's a sadistic, if it's him, and I believe it's him, but if it's him, sadistic killers need time. They take time. They don't get in and get out. They're Richard Ramirez. They're in the refrigerator, drinking milk, and they're walking around the house. They're like the Stevenson murders in Ohio. Someone spent several hours there. Sadistic takes time. You're not doing that in your car. You're not doing it quick. You're not hitting and running. You need hours, if not longer. So he had to go somewhere. So I think the house with the hairs, maybe we'll get more information. Maybe the DNA of these girls will be found in that house somewhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's quite possible. I can't imagine being the wife of somebody and then finding out that your actual hairs have been on a
Yeah,
body. I mean, that has got to be horrifying for her. I can't,
yeah.
yeah, I don't know.
And
Uh,
they had to rule her out. You know what I mean?
right.
Because the hairs, one was 99 point, I think 98, and the other was 99.61. So there was a 0.31 and I think a 0.02% chance the hairs weren't hers. So they're not 100% they can say it's hers, but you got three hairs on three victims with these numbers on them. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if it's two
Yeah.
hairs, two of her hairs and one of his, or three of hers, but definitely two of hers. So when you start stacking them up, it's too much. But hopefully there's DNA from these girls there, and then that's slam dunk. We know they were
Oh,
there.
yeah.
You know what I mean? You have this room with a bank vault and your guns and whatever you have. I don't know. Who knows what else? You know?
Yeah, I heard though that the last report I heard said they did not find any human bones in the yard that we know
Yeah,
of.
yeah. I was surprised at that because I looked at that
I
garden.
was, yeah.
Man, they have a video where they're taking stuff out. It wasn't bones, and the police were able to tell because they had like an envelope and they like dumped it into the thing. And like,
Hmm.
if it was bones, they wouldn't do that. You shouldn't do that for any evidence, but that's probably like pieces of metal or something. So yeah, I heard that there was no remains found in the house in the total search. Off, it was unofficial. The police haven't said that, but everything I've seen is they have not found remains anywhere on his property. But he had them close enough by, you could almost see them from the deck. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Almost if you look over from his deck there. Uh, so they were close enough, but they were like, "Oh, I don't know what you're talking about." You know what I mean? But
I
I don't
know.
know.
I was shocked they didn't find anything. I really did think it was going to be another Baumeister's. But if, his house, that's something else. When you look at the inside pictures of his house, it was so cluttered like a
Yeah,
hoarder. I mean, how, God, if there is evidence in there, there's no telling where it could be. I mean, what would you have to check? It could be anywhere.
that's where they tore out from underneath the bathtub. All they were all over the place, and then it was so. If there wasn't all that stuff in there to begin with, there wouldn't be so much crap. But they're looking at
Yeah.
a serial killer's house; it's going to get torn apart. I mean, there's just no two ways
Mm-hmm.
about it. They voucher everything, and they'll give you this or that. And I don't know if there'll be any recourse where like his wife or his kids could sue and say, "Well, you broke the bathtub" or something like that. I don't know. Again, it'd be nice if someone could step forward and maybe help them out. But I'm sure they're not going to want to live there, and I'm sure the residents probably going to want that house torn down once it's
Yes.
over. He's convicted. Just be like, we don't want to see it. Put a park up there.
Yeah.
Plant some trees, put some swings up, name it after that, whatever you want. But that's just like take the place down. No one wants to look at that. No one wants to see that. And every time you
Right.
ride past it, that's what you're going to think of.
Yeah. And I mean it's not up to par for the neighborhood either. So yeah,
Oh
I
yeah, yeah.
yeah, I definitely think they'll take it down. Somebody will buy it and take it down if the uh geez, what a mess. So is there something else on the profile we need to know?
Basically, the main that's probably the main stuff. And like I said, Jim Clemente had one. He did his, I think, in 2011. John Kelly. You could go to search these names on YouTube and look up LISK or Long Island serial killer. Watch the profiles. Don't put in Rex Heuerman's name. Watch the profiles they've done years ago on it. Because that's what they
Mm-hmm.
said about this guy. Would probably be the age range and stuff like that. And the age range is always the age range. It's usually always the same because that's like the age usually that people begin to kill and whatever the case may be. But pretty much that's it. The dad. Think about the dad. Think about duck hunting. I haven't been able to put that together yet, but I truly believe that is an issue. The burlap sacks I think are hugely significant because it's a criminal liability, but he felt like he had to do it. That's a signature that he had. He didn't need to do that to complete the crime or even to hide the victims, right? But he used those
Right.
burlap sacks and he called them nets. And when you look up burlap nets, it's like a hunting thing. They call it a net. And I talked to some guys I work with. I go, yeah, you have hunting nets. I was, why don't you call them a sack? I'm like, well, you put potatoes in
Mm-hmm.
a sack. And I'm like, oh, okay. I don't
Right.
know. So, but look for that coming up forward. We'll see if I'm right, or maybe you and your subs here have different ideas or different ways to look at it, but go research it because it's very interesting, I think.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think everybody's kind of just getting into this, which, being I've loved true crime my whole life, so I've read about this and before, but it's been so long. It's like learning all over again. You have to go back to the beginning. Okay, what was this about? And Mother Dragon said he had a storage unit. Yes, he did. I don't know.
Actually, he had a couple. Yeah, he had that
Yes.
Omega one. They showed the Omega one. I don't know how many, in multiple properties in South Carolina where his brother. I think it's South, not North. I think it's South Carolina where his brother lives. That's where his Avalanche was at. His brother had it, the green first generation Avalanche, and they took that. Actually, they seized that the day before we found out he got arrested. So they went down South
Yeah.
Carolina and seized that from his brother.
That's another thing. That whole thing about South Carolina, and he wanted to retire there. The brother, I've seen the interview. He's a little
Well,
weird too.
they were building a survivalist compound down there.
Yeah.
Building. There's an interview with the neighbor. If you look up, and this is Rex Heuerman's brother's neighbor. Okay, did I say that right? And there's
Yeah.
this guy, he's tall. He's a good old boy. He's a Clemson fan. He got the sunglasses, and he's just talking freely. Oh, he's a big old boy over there. Yeah, he hit some guy in the head with a pipe a couple years ago. And this dude's just talking like he don't care. He's just, I'll tell you the truth. And they interview him for about 10 minutes, and you get some information. He doesn't point any fingers. He's like, yeah, he had that green Avalanche. He drove it everywhere. That was his vehicle. He
Yeah.
got the impression that Rex kind of took care of little brother. And
Right.
he was down there, and there was some kind of compound and some survivalist stuff going on. So, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, that was I think there's so much to this story. Um uh Let me say something. Unravel, are we on the same Discord somewhere? Hit me up if we're not. I cannot remember. And half the time y'all have different names on Discord and I
Oh,
have no
yeah.
idea who anybody is. I know who I'm talking to. But if not, if you can't reach me on Discord, hit me at silkyandSouthern@gmail. Um, anyway, I wanted to go back. CJK asked if, and I'm trying to find the comment. Oh, there it is. If, and we did say this, no, the first wife has not said squat. And I don't blame her at this point. I hope that, she does. Holly Southern Style. Girl, we've been looking for you. I sent you an email, I think, if I hit send. He also worked for a T-Tower architect.
Trump,
Who
yeah,
is
he
T?
did the
Yeah.
Trump Tower. He did some work
Yes.
there with American Eagle, a few different places.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, geez. See, that just goes to show you. When I say Manhattan, if you have never been to Manhattan,
Oh, yeah.
then you don't know. You see the buildings and you think it's a nice building in a nice city. Like, look, Manhattan, different world. I love it. I absolutely love Manhattan, but it is a different planet. So, yeah, you're Trump Tower working on he had met he said he had been working there since 1987. I mean, he was living the American dream, wouldn't
Yeah.
you say?
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Well, from all appearances, from the outside, yeah, very successful architect. One of the other things I want to talk about before too, and we'll see if this comes to fruition. I've heard rumors, and I have no proof of it, but it'd certainly be interesting. What if they rushed to arrest him? I say rush because it was a fast investigation, because he had someone else lined up and he was going to do it again. That they were somehow on his phone, and they were realizing, oh no, he's going to meet some girl and he's going to try to do this again. We need to go send these agents to pick him up. There's no proof of that. We will find that out if he was continuing to do this stuff or continue to
Yeah.
meet with girls. Did he meet with girls and he didn't unalive them? And if he did, why did he do that? Why did he pick these certain particular girls? Was it dates? They tell you why the person, why the place, and why the method. Those are you look at those things. Why did they do this? Why did they pick her? Why did he pick this method? And why did he do it at this place and time? So it could be interesting. And they sent you said you posted the video. They sent about 8 or 10 cops. You see it? They just start coming up at him everywhere with their suits on when he's out in the street.
Yeah.
Boy, he's surrounded. He ain't going nowhere.
It
Anyone
probably
drinking
was going to
whiskey?
take that many. He was a big guy too,
Yeah.
and
Well, I don't blame him. He's a possible serial killer, and he's 6'6",
yeah,
280 to 320 or something. Maybe. Yeah, we're sending him. We're sending a bunch.
yeah, and you could tell, like I love that video. You could tell that it was he had no idea,
Oh yeah, you're right.
nothing. It wasn't like he was looking around thinking, "I feel like something's in the air." Like
Mhm.
it was just he was just living his life, and all of a sudden, boom! And I'm like, yes, yes,
He was walking down the street like he was the mayor. Just looking around, and then you could tell, you can't see it because it's kind of out, but you could tell he has like, me, yeah, and there's like more cops come behind him, and they're like, yeah, you put your hands behind your
yeah,
back.
yes, yes. Okay. Let me get down here. All right, yeah. So I did a video, I don't know, a couple of days ago. I don't know. I know you have a schedule kind of like mine, Coach Kev, where it's all craziness. So I forget what day, when, what week. A lot of times things happen, but I wanted to show you this because like I was saying, I was on Reddit the day this broke, and I'm at work, and I'm thinking, what a day to be at work when one of the biggest cases has an arrest, right? Jeez. Uh, so I was on Reddit just looking, and I know, look, Reddit is what it is. You can find a lot of good information, and then there's a lot of crap. But I started reading on I don't know. I guess it was just Long Island because nobody really had Rex Heuerman's name at that time. And as I had pulled it up on the computer screen, and I was reading something by a person called Standard Wasabi. I know, weird, but Reddit has the weird names. And so I was reading it, and I was like, oh man, that's good, that's good. And I went to my phone to screenshot it. The user was completely deleted. And then I was like, okay, dilemma. I cannot take a good screenshot because I have to do it on my phone. I don't know how to screenshot the computer, but I'm pretty sure it's kind of an old monitor. It probably would have been just as bad. But I wanted to look at, because going back to the video I did, if you all didn't see that video or you haven't heard, there was a lot of police corruption surrounding this case. Like, it was a nightmare, okay? It was a nightmare. And here's the thing. Y'all, I know I get blasted sometimes like, you just hate the police. No, I work with police every single day. I back the blue 100%. But are there bad guys? Yes. Does that particular profession attract bad guys? Yes, it does. Absolutely. And in the case of James Burke, who was the he was on Suffolk County how long? I mean, what, Kev, from the 80s, I think? Or
Yeah,
maybe 90, 91.
yeah. I think he had like, was it 20 years before he became chief or something like that?
Yeah.
Somewhere around there or something. Yeah, maybe even more than that before he became chief.
Yeah. So, I mean, he started out as a thug, basically. He was a 14-year-old boy who was the star witness for a murder trial, who people still do not believe it, now they really don't believe that it was ever handled right, and probably the wrong people were convicted. But basically, he became friends with this guy on the prosecutor's team, Thomas Spota. And look, James Burke, he was already dealing substances, okay? And he was already breaking into vehicles and doing all kind of stuff. And, he was Spota's top star witness, and they became like this. So he even here's the thing, James Burke even told people that he wanted to be a cop so he could commit crimes and get away with it.
Yeah.
So, they knew that. Well, and finally when he was 21, he was allowed to join the police force, and him and Spota were still, rocking their friendship. And so then you had like the long string of the criminal history cover-ups. You had the perfect storm because James Burke was then appointed a few years later, like maybe 5 or 6 years later, after just becoming a cop. He was promoted, and he became the lead investigator for the prosecution. Thomas Spota was the DA. So there you have it. Like, they've got it locked up. Spota does what he wants as the prosecutor. Burke feeds him all of, he's the lead investigator. So, it's always like Burke says, right? So
Yeah.
together, they can commit any type of crime that they want to. Now, Burke, within the first 2 years of his becoming a police officer, he's already been looked at by internal affairs because he has lost his service weapon and vehicle twice as he was cavorting with these escorts, okay?
Whoops.
Yeah. And so that's what my first video is about. Like, this whole story and this whole book, it was written by, what is his name? Is it Gus Garcia? Somebody, I don't know. I should remember this. Anyway, it's called Jimmy the King, and it talks about their long history. Eventually, not until 2012. In 2012, he became the chief of police, so he was not just the lead investigator. While Gilgo Beach and everything was going on, and they found these bodies, guess who is there to stop everything? So Burke did not want people. He didn't want, when they started off and they found the Gilgo Beach 4, they wanted to bring in, the FBI, and of course all these people, you want a joint task force. You need, lots of eyes on this. Jim Burke is like, nah. We don't need this. Suffolk County can handle it. But Jim Burke was known to be one of the main perpetrators. Like, he frequented the strip clubs. He was, look, read Jimmy the King. What do you know about Burke, Coach Kev?
Well, I know more about him. I didn't know some of the stuff you said about him coming up. I knew that he was dirty. He was a bad cop before he became chief. That was with the membership, the guys on the floor, as we would say, the guys and girls on the floor that are out there doing. So they really didn't respect him. And the thing with him is, so the thing that he actually went to prison for was the beating of a guy named Chris Lieb. And
Yes.
Chris Lieb stole a duffel bag out of his car while Jimmy the Gent was cavorting with him. I don't know if it was his girlfriend at the time, but he dated several escorts. One went on the record and says, yeah, we were together for a while. He was, and not that this makes you a criminal, but he was into dressing up in women's clothes and stuff like that. So when Chris Liebs took the duffel bag out of the car, what was in the duffel bag was sex toys, women's clothes, women's shoes, stuff like that. Women's shoes that are like size 12, right? You're not, unless you're dating someone like, a 7-foot tall girl or something, it's probably not going to be hers.
Yeah.
That we know of. They took him to the police station and they tied him down by his limbs and they beat him and they punched him. And why was he so mad about? Well, he was mad about, I think, the women's clothes, but there was something else. And this is only conjecture at this point. But supposedly Chris Lieb said to him, hey, I watched your DVD that was in that bag.
Right.
And then that's when Burke started pounding him in the face. Lieb led on to believe that it was a snuff film that he had that he watched. Now he hasn't produced this. I don't know if anyone has it or anything, but we know for a fact that Burke was dirty. We knew for a fact that Burke was addicted to cocaine.
Yes.
He's with these working girls. He's out there. He has ties to the doctor out there. He has ties to a lot of other people. I think he has ties to Brewer, who was on that 911 tape when the girl ran out early on, or that sprung the investigation. But this guy is as dirty as the day is long. He went to prison, and Spota, the district attorney, I think is still in prison. So these guys kicked the FBI out because whether they were involved in the murders or they thought the FBI was investigating them or getting too close, doesn't make a difference. They put their shit over the lives of these girls that were taken because they were worried about themselves.
Right.
And so you have a lot of different cases where people are like, the police are doing this and doing that. Like you look at Delphi and Florida, different cases like that. This case has all that times 10, and all of it's true. You can't even make this up, how horrible these guys were. Heuerman, if he's the guy, should have been off the street 12 years ago, and these dudes were so inept. I hope no one else lost their lives. Light went out there. I hope no one else lost their lives behind that because they didn't make an arrest.
Right.
They did. You know what I mean? I'll get this back.
Right.
I kicked it.
Absolutely. And that's, I think, the first thing that I thought is, okay, I realized they didn't want the FBI out there. Let's say they had nothing to do with Gilgo Beach or any of the many, many missing or unalived women in that area. But they didn't want the FBI in there because they wanted to continue their crimes. And like, how are you going to keep on continuing your nefarious activities, even if they're not related, with the FBI all up in there? So yeah, they had to kick everybody out. But I'll just tell you, I have to wonder if it's possible, and I'm not saying that Burke and Spota just went around unaliving people, but I have to wonder how many maybe cases were handled or not handled, because if some of these workers, hypothetically, this is theory, some of these workers may have at some point wanted to, say, no, enough, stop, I want out, I'm going to turn evidence. And then, boom, there you are. Yeah, not here anymore.
Yeah. Maybe something got out of control with their gameplay or whatever, and something happened. And they all, or there's another theory someone said today, maybe they knew about this. I don't know if they knew about Rex or not. They knew about this and says, well, if this ever happens to you, just go dump her out there because we know, you know what I mean? They'll just put it with the serial killer maybe, and you'll just, get with there and you'll get away with it. Or like you said, we just want to investigate that case. And how many more cases? I'm sure they're still probably reviewing all the things that they screwed up there, because it wasn't just these murders. It was probably anything vice related, because Burke had his hands in everything out there. He literally, he was doing all kind of vices he was into.
Yeah. So yeah, that was, and this went on. So Burke, he became police chief in January of 2012. All these dates, 2012. But by December is when the whole incident had happened. And yeah, when he stole, and I called him Christopher Loeb, but you said it's Lieb. I don't know how you pronounce that. I don't know how you pronounce.
Oh, I wrote Lieb. You could be right. I don't know.
I think it's Loeb. So I don't know. Anyway, that guy, you can look him up.
That might be an O, not an I. You might be right.
Well, anyway. When he didn't know, I guess, that when he was taking that satchel from Burke's car, that it was a cop's car. It was a white SUV. I'm thinking it had to be plain or something, because I don't care if you're all, drugged up. I don't see you going into a police car and taking stuff, but he broke into that one. So, but that comes up in another thing that I'm going to show you from Reddit. Again, just now I know there's a lot of white SUVs, but it's just one of those things.
He might have had, if it's like our town, most of the bosses have take-home cars, the higher ups, and they don't say police, they're unmarked. You could probably tell if you really looked at them that they're like a police car, but all of our chiefs, they have take-home cars. They're just like white Tahoes or white Suburbans. They don't have the police writing. The only thing to do are the patrol cars. So he might have just had like a nice SUV that wasn't actually, if you looked, you might have known it was a police car, but it didn't say police on it. And someone else mentioned another theory that someone sent this guy down there to steal that bag that had some beef against him from the underworld.
Could be.
But absolutely, this guy's so crooked that any of that's possible.
Yeah, and I mean, the fact that, Loeb never backed down. He always said it was that kind of film. And I mean, if you're going to take it all the way, so eventually, and it took, it took years, but in December of 2012, Burke was unseated, from his job, and this came out, and then he did get, but you know what, he only got like 46 months. Yeah. To me, that's crap. That's just crap for what he did.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Thomas Spota eventually did get disbarred. I think it was in 2016. I could be wrong, but I think that's when it was. So, but then, here you go. You have an area where for literally decades, people are running like the police are running rampant. They're committing crimes as the people in Suffolk County knew. But what you gonna do?
Yeah.
You got the DA, you got, everybody on the police, well, not everybody, but you got all these bigwigs on the police force. They're running the deals. They're, I guess, running drugs. That's what all this was
Everything.
about.
Gambling. They were doing
Yeah,
everything.
everything.
Yeah. And in case folks don't know, and I found this out, Suffolk County Police Department, I think, is the 11th biggest police department in the country. Right.
Wow.
So think how many police officers that is. And the guy at the top of this is like just a berserker running through the streets. It's unfathomable how all this can happen, but it did. It did happen. So
yeah, exactly. So you've got all this. So then you have to imagine, even when they were sentenced and disbarred, whatever, it's going to take some time because people are still not going to I don't think they were the only two players. Okay, if you've got a chief who's nefarious, then you're going to have a lot of players under it. So I think it took a while, even after 2016, for somebody to come in, and it wasn't until the new police commissioner, I think his name is Rodney Harrison.
Rodney Harrison, I remember that because there was a New England Patriot defensive back named Rodney Harrison. So I always remember that, Rodney Harrison, yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, you had all that, and then Rodney Harrison comes in. Of course, that's in January 22. By boom, February, he's already got his prime, suspect. So, but here are the things, and I'm going to change this up just a second, Coach Kevin. I'm going to try to put this on here. Let's see. I can get this big enough. And this will kind of tell you, goodness, I don't know what's wrong with me. Make sure it looks like it's been up. I have to look at my TV. Yeah, there we go. Again, this was a photograph of the computer screen by my phone because it was already gone the day that he was arrested. But if you will look at this, let me move this. This standard wasabi 6405, and this had been, saying that after 11 years, read the very top, could answers be coming, in talking about the LISK case. And so this one, Sweet Composer, says, please delete this, it's a year-old nonsense article. Well, everything is nonsense until it's proven to be true, right? But anyway, I assume this is a male. I don't know why I assume that. I just do. Don't be so naive thinking there is not a substantial amount of Suffolk County entities that wanted the last thing to happen is this case being solved. Indeed, not an insignificant amount of people actively worked against it being solved. Or should I say, being solved in a way that would not hurt their freedom, career, and pensions, which we've talked about. In that order, not one person privy to the real information in this cause has a plausible excuse. Not after 10 plus years. Of course, there was reason to keep the fact that LISK was active, LE, close in the first few years. That's still, I know. Okay, let me just say here, Rex was not LE, but there are still some theories that there is a law enforcement officer involved in some of these cases. Now look what happens. Some victims' parents are unalive themselves. The victims' children are young adults, and now LISK had the opportunity to start again. Because it was never about solving this. That's not how things are done in Suffolk County when the permanent government is threatened with their grip on power. This month is a common month for county retirements. People who need to retire because of this will secure their pensions, and they will solve this. Solve being used in irony. Now, just to say this, Yeah, there is, again, Heuerman has been arrested for the Gilgo Beach. 3. There's 4, but let me go on, because he goes on and says, what makes me think? Okay, here are the things that really make me think, Coach Kev. And normally I would say, this could be just anybody, yapping, running their trap on Reddit. But he says some things that actually came to pass. Now, um, he says, I have reason to believe I was unknowingly in a police lineup in New York City with someone I now think is LISK. It all started 6 weeks ago. A truck loaded with stripped gun parts got jacked outside of Queens. The driver didn't see anybody, but somebody effed up. He heard a voice. Sometimes that's all you need. The Queens connection and the voice part later reminded me of the Queens connection with the calls. Now, could that have been Heuerman? It could have been. He was released right away. Like the cops were scared of him. The mayor called that night. The next day, someone from the governor's office called. I'm telling you, this guy was protected from up on high by the Prince of Darkness. I think I'm going to call Crime Stoppers tonight. So, yeah. And then
that right there is from a movie called The Usual Suspects.
That
whole paragraph.
I think that was in response to something. Okay, because he says this. I think that was in response to something else, because and this is a quote also, the only thing evil needs to succeed is for good people to do nothing. Now, who said that? I think he was quoting.
I think he's using that as an example.
Yes.
I love that movie, but
yes.
I think the example, if you know the movie, if you've seen the movie,
mm-hmm.
if you've seen the movie, what it's all about is basically was a mastermind to pull the strings on everything. But
right.
The cops were just incompetent, corrupt fools.
Yeah.
I think that's where he's going with that. I think that's the reason that he used that.
Yes.
I get it. If you saw that movie, you'll get it right away. But if you haven't seen that movie, you might be like, oh, but I love the movie. So I think exactly what he's saying with that.
Yeah. Now, this one, I don't know if this one is a movie quote or not. But he says it's cold-hearted indifference, anger. There is no book deal or expect consultation job. It's cold hearts, not a cold case. But here's the one thing. Where is it? I'm looking for this one last thing. Okay. Okay, he says, I wish you the best of luck. I can only imagine how badly the Suffolk County machine has stonewalled you. Talking to responding to another statement. Showed complete indifference and outright contempt, most likely. Please persevere and stay strong. You are dealing with a machine that if described to any other American, they would be convinced you are talking about an autocratic regime. And in a lot of ways you are. Don't give up. They are sitting on a lot of information than you know. But it clearly, at this point, ensuring that they will be okay and waltz into retirement without a care. The without a care part is already self-evident. They need to cover themselves. Then maybe the truth will come out. But if past performance is an indication of future behavior, I doubt it. They are most likely picking out who the next judges, county officials, and etc. are. And then I will find this. The one thing about this whole thing, all right, I think it's here. Let me get, oh, my computer's going nuts. He says, all right, odds are you will know within 30 days, not via a new piece of obscure evidence, but by an arrest. LISK has been identified. Now, see where it says 1 month ago?
Yeah.
That was exactly It was the day of the arrest, which was a month
I think it's
prior.
a
So
cop. I think it's a cop writing that, and there's one line in the
yeah.
last thing: past behavior predicts future behavior, whatever. That's a FBI BAU behavioral science quote. That's something. That's a term that they use, or terms that they use all the time. As soon as I read that, and then you're telling me that there's some substance to this, and this person's gone now.
Oh yeah. This whole account is deleted. The whole user's deleted.
Hey, Ed Harmon is my deputy chief. So he has DC fours in the house because he's deputy chief four. I'm on crew four. So everyone, Ed Harmon actually works with me. He's my boss.
Now, this is the last thing I think that Standard Wasabi wrote. LISK is identified as responsible for all human remains found in Hampstead along the Ocean Parkway and the remains found in Manorville. LISK is an active NYS law enforcement agency employee. But now that is not who they arrested.
No.
And did not stop after the discovery of the Gilgo 4. Feel free to downvote this all you want. Just please bookmark this post and upvote it when the arrest is made. It should occur within the next 30 days, which it was right at 30. I don't know if it was a give or take a day or two, how red it is, but it was within that 30 days. So that, though, I think that's the main thing. He goes on, there's another place that he talks about how all of the officials are completely, what happened here?
Oh, it just went on your thing when your sharing went off. Or sharing. That's
Okay.
wild, though. That's yeah, why go away? Why not gloat that you got it right? You know what I mean? If you're that editor. Yeah, I told you,
Right. So, but yeah, he just went away, and that's the thing. I thought it was somebody absolutely in law enforcement, but then when the person was arrested and it was Heuerman, it made me wonder, okay, is Heuerman, not that, I think he's 100% guilty. I do. I mean, he looks like a monster to me. But
maybe the cop, maybe the other person, if there is another person dumping in the same area, is a law enforcement officer. Maybe these two were operating independently. Maybe the law enforcement officer went there because these bodies were, hey, I'll just dump them here. They'll put them on that. They might have known EMO and everything. So I don't know. That's interesting though. I think that's a cop talking there. My personal view.
I mean, that's kind of the impression I got. Somebody, and not just an average somebody who is, it sounds like, is concerned about the case, concerned about justice, and trying to give, people silently, or Reddit-wise, yeah. So, anyway, that's what I thought, and the fact that it disappeared on that day, and I even checked it today, Coach Kev.
There's a lot of there's not technical terms in there, but there's just there's certain jargon. I'm big on the way people talk, and there's certain jargon like the cops will use, and just the way that a cop will say a sentence compared to someone else, and even a fireman to a certain extent, and it sounds to me like a male police officer.
Yeah.
Or a male someone involved in the investigation and in law enforcement. Maybe they know more, and maybe there's another shoe that's going to drop. I don't know. Maybe Rex didn't do all these. Maybe there is a,
I mean, it could
about how sometimes LE brings in bad people, and I saw people in the comments. It does, and a lot of those people sometimes get pushed out. A lot of the profiles will say this person is a cop buff. He's an affinity for police. Maybe he was Ed Kemper. Maybe he couldn't get in a police academy because he was 6'9", or a lot of these other guys, and then they'd be called cop buffs, or as we call them, whackers. They're a whacker.
Mm-hmm.
They walk around with the radio by their ear. Oh, did you hear what happened last night? But possible.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many things with this. And then, again, were they working in tandem, or were they, is there still another person out there? Is Gilgo Beach one person and some of these other people in these other places? Because, he named, I have to go back to see, Monroeville and all of these places. he's saying this is LE. So, and I'm saying I would think it's not Burke, because Burke is, I mean, kind of out of the picture. You would think he would have made some reference if he thought it was Burke, that somebody would, unless he
Yeah,
made some,
especially when he was on his way out. You're not afraid of getting repercussions anymore. You would have
right.
thought.
But after all these years, to get on Reddit and say this is going to happen, that LISK has been identified and he's going to be caught in the next 30 days, and then boom, it is within 30 days. That's putting your money where your mouth is, in my opinion. So I was like, oh my God, I have got to screenshot this, as bad as it is. I'm just going to take a picture of it.
Well, no, that's good that you have it now, because no one else is going to be able to get it, and it's there, or maybe he pops back up at some point. Look for
Possibly.
I'm saying him. I'm assuming it's a him, and I'm assuming it's a cop. But I think you're right on. I think you got that right on. That's a male police officer.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So yeah, I wanted to bounce that off somebody else, because I was like, dang. Yeah, I even checked today. I even went back on there. I've typed it in. You can find a few different kind of wasabis, but it's not anything like this. Some of them I'd advise you to not even go on that Reddit. So anyway, so what do y'all think? I haven't been looking at the discussion.
Yeah, me either.
Hello, Margaret. I'm gonna have to go back and watch some of this.
We all kind of people talking. Jinx is there. Jinx is leaving.
Yeah. And I have not seen Holly Southern Style well, she commented, but she was MIA for a while. Wasn't there a military doctor who had been suspected for a while, moved to Florida, but I think that belt and the initials were trying to figure out which direction. Oh, that was a thing I didn't read. That one, the guy that we were just talking about, he said it could possibly, in one of those slides I have somewhere, he said it could have been, what is the name of that men's store? I have to look at it.
Men's Warehouse?
No, it's not Men's Warehouse. I have to go back and look at it. But anyway, he said it could have possibly been a belt, like you'd have to turn it upside down. Or he said that they have those initials. And I'm not sure. Let me see if I can find it in my photos real quick. I've heard of it. Gosh almighty. But I mean, now they're saying it was legit the grandfather or the father.
That's what I'm hearing. William Heuerman was the grandfather. His father's name was Theodore. Rex's father, Theodore. He died in 1975. Rex was 11. He was pretty young. I think I heard lymphoma. I can't confirm that, though, and I can't confirm what kind of person he was or what he did or anything like that. I can't confirm that he took Rex duck hunting in that area, but I just keep going to that burlap sack, and that makes me think his dad, makes me think something happened when his dad died. And then, are the girls surrogates, or they're all short with red hair? Or they, is that going to be something like that? So those are all the things like I look at, like from the profiling end, and you kind of put that in with all the evidence that we have and like the other stuff that we talked about tonight. And then you have this black cloud hanging over because of the two goofs that were the police chief and the DA before. So you almost these guys have to go back through that whole investigation, which was probably a lot of BS, and you have to go through all the stuff that they put in, because you can't believe anything that those two guys said. So there was a few people today that are in the know, like police officers, and they said this. There's so much evidence. This could be 3 years, 2.5 years before court.
Oh yeah.
And then the trial could be one of those, long, like, O.J. Simpson type half a year trials or something, whatever. So,
yeah. But, I anticipate that. Because, well, first of all, I anticipate that they're going to find out a whole lot more stuff, maybe more victims, so, maybe whatever. So I think it's going to be a long time. I think it's not a case that we can, say, well, this is going to be wrapped up it's not going to happen. But I mean, it just goes to show you, like, we talk about the corruption and whatnot in Indiana and Delphi, and I mean, look at it's a problem. It's a problem everywhere. And here's the thing, you're in a catch-22. You love the police, you need the police. I've never ever thought once about defunding the police, because no, that's stupid.
I don't think that's the answer either. Not to get political, but I just don't see that being the answer.
No.
You want just every man for himself? Like, what is Thunder?
Yeah. Oh, I know. My daughter was younger when all this was going on. She's grown up some, but she's like, these people, they need counselors. I'm like, so you're telling me in a domestic violence episode at 2 a.m. when somebody's, trying to hurt somebody else, you're going to call a counselor?
Yeah, I think your daughter's right, but we would have to staff every police car with a counselor 24/7, because we don't know when those incidents are going to happen. So they got to constantly be there. If you have maybe pay these young kids, give them good jobs. Show me the funding that we could put a counselor or a person to deal with psychotic people in a police car every single shift, and I'm for it. How do we pay for it? Like, how do we do it? But like, it's just not practical right now. And we had a police officer who lost his life in McKeesport, a friend of mine, Officer Sean Sladansky, in February. He was shot and killed by a guy who was out of the military with PTSD, owned weapons that he bought in another state, brought him here, and without, Sean came around the corner and he opened fire and he lifted his arm and he just got him under the vest. So there was no,
wow,
the cops are trying to get me. This guy was just crazy as the day is long for whatever reason. But, I don't think that's the thing. But, and my brother will tell you this too, and I think you said this before, and someone in the comments did. The good cops, they get more pissed at the bad cops than anyone else, because it makes their job harder.
Yes.
Now you're in the street and someone from your police force did something to someone last night, and they're giving you shit. I wasn't even working. I'm a good guy. I always treat you with respect.
Right.
So-and-so kicked somebody when their handcuffs were on last night, so now screw all you guys. Like,
right.
That's how it is.
And I think that the cops that I work with, I think they're the same way. I mean, do you have people sometimes, that get through, that come through the cracks, and then you find out, but, overall, I don't have any complaints, and, but that's the thing is, it's easier. It is easier. It's just like if you want to get technical about it, I'm a nurse, it's easier for me to analyze somebody sick in the hospital than it is, anybody else.
Well, there's been Angel of Death serial killers.
Oh, yeah.
There was one in Pennsylvania. I forget the guy's name, that in the 70s and 80s. They don't even know. It was like 50 or 60 people, and you have to look at it this way. And I say this about everything. So you had a bad experience with a police officer. Maybe that cop was a jerk. Maybe he treated you really bad. But if you're going to say that every cop's bad because of that, that's the same argument that everybody has. I had a bad encounter with a Swedish guy one time, so I don't like Swedish people from now on. Well, you're obtuse if you think that way, right?
Right.
So you got to give everyone the benefit of a doubt, and you have to have empathy and try to put yourself in other people's shoes. And I think that's the biggest problem in the country today. No matter what it is, man. Like, if you support this side, you got to try to put yourself in the other person's shoes. And I learned that from a psychology thing, because that's what the profilers do. They try to put themselves in the killer's minds. And then there's books about the residual effect of that it takes on the profilers, because they walk down the street. John Douglas, at one point, he'd profile everyone he saw. This guy, I think this guy's abusing his kids. Now I'm starting to follow him home. And you couldn't shut it off. So look at it that way. Try to put yourself in someone else's shoes. Well, even when they're coming at you, like, where are they coming from, if you can do it? But I think that you do that. I see you in Discord too, and all the craziness that was going on. There's people on that are going at each other that I really like. Not like the troublemaking people, but just friends of mine that are just kind of caught in. Mm-hmm. And you see people that care and try to, like, be in the middle of people like you, and just try to, like, guys, just let it, remember why we're here. And people like you ground us. Remember why we're here. We came here because we want to help people and now we're at each
Right.
other's throats. Like, what? We're humans. What the hell's the matter with us? Like, all
Yeah.
of us.
I mean, and it's hard. I'll be honest with you, it's hard sometimes because I'm a little bit temperamental. I know it. I don't show it as much on YouTube, but but I do. I get you know ask my kids. It's easy for me to lose my temper, and I get angry at some of the things that some people do, and it's hard sometimes to keep a. But
Well,
yeah, that's the
I
you
don't
have
call
to
that.
remember.
Don't call
That's
that
the
temper.
focus.
That's passion. You have passion. You have
I
passion.
do
That's
have.
why I like you. Yeah.
I will passionately, yeah. And so, but it's true, and at the end of the day, that's what it is about. And you know, I think as far as this, that's why I think this case is fascinating because I I don't know how many, what the body count is going to be. I don't know. I don't know. You know, he didn't just, I don't care what
Yeah.
you say. I'll never believe there are just 4 bodies on Gilgo Beach and there's nobody else. I call horse bucky.
If he follows the trend of series killers, they usually start in the neighborhood of like 26. Now they're saying maybe a little bit younger. But let's say at his age in the 80s or late 90s, it's 26. So he's
Uh-huh.
50. He's 59 now. So maybe 22 to 26. So that's 37 years. So go back 37 years from today, was like 87 or something, 1990. So he could have been doing this for almost 30 years, and we don't know.
Yeah.
And like I said with
Yeah.
the BTK thing before, they thought he just quit, but now they're looking at cold cases that he might have never quit. So
Right.
I think we got the right people in there with Chief Harrison and Tierney at the DA. I think they're going to get this done. They got the FBI in there using all the resources in the world. And like I said earlier, I think this is a horrible police work at the beginning and great police work at the end. It's a case that shows you both the worst of the police in the world and maybe the best of the police in the world, all in the same case.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. I couldn't have said that better. I did see today a interview on News Nation that talked about not just the Burke Spota thing, but one of the big problems in the beginning was the power struggle. Like, you know, I guess, you know, people wanting to be the head honcho, this office fighting that office, and you know, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, at least we've gotten through. It took years. The only problem, and it's excellent police work here in the last year. Um, the only thing that bothers me is how many victims are there that should never have been
Yeah,
if
I
they had solved
agree.
this case.
If there's names that, and I would have no reason to think that he would have stopped. Maybe he's
Me
dumping
either.
them somewhere else or whatever. Joel Rifkin dumped his in threes. He'd have 3 girls here, 3 girls there. That was his thing. But they would have to be responsible. And maybe you can't put people in jail, but if there's victims linked, their families should be getting checks for $10 million or whatever the case from the Suffolk County Police Department because
Yes.
they let it happen.
Mm-hmm.
They let this happen. You know, they willingly fudged this investigation on purpose, like literally. You know, they tanked.
Right. That's what I'm saying. I mean, I don't think anybody's going to prosecute unless they said that you know that Burke was directly involved in a
Yeah,
you know
yeah,
hands-on. I don't think they're going to be able to prosecute him for that. But if there's other things that he is responsible for that happened on his watch because of his shenanigans,
yeah.
I think he should be held accountable for that, even in a civil court. I really do. But that's just me.
I
Uh,
agree with you. I think you're right.
okay, this is all right. Okay. All right. I think search through the Brave browser for standard. Yes, that is the correct number. Yeah. All the screenshot dumps and comments associated. Okay. Okay. See, I couldn't. I know it's off Reddit, but I haven't gone on Brave and tried to do it. That's why I got like I've got lists of things that Standard Wasabi said, but I don't always have what comment it was relating to because of you know somebody had just put like Reddit had put everything you can. I guess you can look it up by user, like every comment they've ever made, and it was regarding LISK. So yeah, there's actually some more stuff on there that I didn't cover tonight. Pretty interesting, pretty interesting. And you know, like I said, it just makes me wonder. It was a great conversation tonight, Coach Kev.
Oh yeah, I had a good time, and time goes fast whenever I'm on here with
It
you.
does. It
I'm
does.
like when we talked earlier, because like you're like me too, and a couple of the other people. Like, yeah, what are we going to talk about? We don't need a script or anything.
Right.
And when you said about like the investigation, and I'm like, oh, I got so much stuff on that on Burke, and then you laid out twice as much as I have written down or I knew. So I actually learned. I didn't know a whole lot about Burke before he became chief. I just knew they didn't like him when he was a piece of garbage. But you laid all that out and put all it together for me. So now that makes even more sense to me. Everything that happened, and that he probably twirled people in and into his vortex. And it's almost like the Jimmy Burke on Goodfellas when Ray Liotta gets arrested, takes the pinch, and then he becomes
Yeah.
made. Hey, testify that this guy did this, and we'll take care of you forever. And he was like, it's almost like that. Like, it's crazy. Oh,
Yeah. And I can't wait to get my hands on the book Jimmy the King. It makes me wonder if standard wasabi is correct at all. In some of this, is the LE he's talking about, is that Burke? I mean, could it
what
be?
if, or what if it comes out here and then, you would hope the guy would appear again, but I think he's a male policeman, a male law enforcement officer. I'm big into how people write and how people talk and stuff like that. And I agree with you. That's interesting to me. Yeah. You think you're onto something there.
Could be, and maybe every detail is not correct. I don't know. But there's
Maybe
enough
there,
there.
maybe there's some way, maybe they're watching, maybe they'll reach out to you under an alias and, no one's going to
That'd be
expose
good.
you. Email Silky and give us what you got. You know what I mean? You'd be an unnamed source. She's solid. You could trust her. Silky will not fold under questioning. I can guarantee
uh,
that.
that's the thing, though. It makes me wonder: is it a policeman? And it's certainly the one thing. People can say what they want to about Reddit, and you can say anything. You can be anybody you want to on Reddit. But the bottom line is, after all these years, if you're going to put a statement up there and say this case is going to break in within 30 days, and by golly, it does,
Yeah.
then I'm going to say, you know what you're talking
Yeah.
about.
Could you imagine if someone put that up on the Delphi case in September of last year,
Yeah,
early October? We'd still be talking about that person right now.
right.
8 months later, that'd be like the biggest news. Oh, who was that, Columbo or Sherlock Holmes over there that was able to figure that out? Yeah,
Yeah,
that's huge. That's huge. This is a
yeah,
case that's been a 13-year investigation, and you hit the right month. That's pretty high.
exactly.
That's pretty
Yeah,
good.
yeah. I'm saying it's legit. So, for that reason alone. But all right. Well, let me see if there's anything. Hey, Bruin Hell.
Yeah,
I haven't seen you in a while. What you been up to? Oh, Justice. Yeah, let me get everybody in here. Here are some people. If you're not subscribed, you need to. Y'all, if you love the Wild West, you get to see Honeybee's
oh
video on
yeah,
Billy the Kid. My goodness,
awesome.
that was
Yeah.
very good work. Indie Archive. You want to see any kind of drone footage? You want to know what things look like? You need to do Indie Archive and Danger. Is it? Wait, what did I just say?
Danger
Oh,
Dave.
Dave. Danger
Danger,
Dave. Why is it
Danger
not
Dave.
showing up? There we go. No? Why is it not showing up? I'm clicking it. Okay, maybe I'm clicking the wrong thing.
There you go. That's for any
All
insomniacs.
right.
Dave asked me to be on, but he does like stuff at like 2 a.m. I'm like, I'm old, Dave. I'm in bed. Maybe I could catch the end of one because I get up at like 6 a.m. But he does all kind of good weather stuff. And when the guy escaped from Pennsylvania prison, he was on that. And you'll see Dave in everyone's chat too. Dave's good people for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, and then we've got Ruckus. I don't know where
Okay.
Ruckus
Yeah.
is. Ruckus is tonight. Linda K. It's good to see you.
Hey,
Thank
Linda.
you so much to Jinx 13.
Yeah. Jinx is awesome as usual.
Yes, I hope it doesn't look like there was a whole lot of trolls in here tonight. So maybe she had an easy night. I'm gonna put this back up here. If you are not subscribed to Coach Kev, what are you doing? He has a lot of great videos, and I can't find your link. I just had it up there. Anyway, he has a lot of has a lot of great stuff, being a firefighter, and y'all know we're all into flora, and coming up this month, I think there's a court something to go on with that, and around the middle of the month. Is that when
With that
Galen?
Flora?
Yeah,
It's there's some civil there hasn't been an arrest or anything like that, but there's some
right.
civil stuff. But let me tell you, behind the scenes, there's a lot of people that are sharing information with others, and I'm not full of crap. There's progress in that case, and I think I hope soon for Galen that there's an arrest made. But there's momentum behind the scenes. There's a lot of people doing a lot of good work, and that's all I can say right now. I hate to be that guy. You know what I
No,
mean?
that's like,
There's a lot of people cooperating behind the scenes. Like it's
mm-hmm.
beautiful, really. All these different people are coming from they're kind of putting their shit aside. And they're here, they're dropping in this one here, and it's getting put together. Silky, I'm telling you, it's getting put together. So everybody's hard work, and keep talking it up like you have, please. And we're gonna have answers. I truly believe that. Truly.
I kind of got a hint of that earlier today, and I'm like, oh, thank goodness,
Oh,
because
good. Yeah.
this case is infuriating, and it's heartbreaking, and I'm so excited to think that something could really good happen for Galen in this.
There's people that are being really brave right now and sharing things, and some of them are from that area, some of them aren't even from near there, and they're just being brave and sharing this and that. Hey, I think this can help you guys. I've sat on this. I didn't think it was anything, but something someone said triggered something in their mind, and it's what it takes. So I'm so thankful for them. She shared Meow. Meow has all the videos, all the stuff. Galen's been on there. We just had the shirts, and we were able to get. I should have worn mine tonight. So the girls will have proper grave marker or tombstones, not just grave markers now. So that was the shirt fundraiser. So Meow put that together, and we'll see that when they're finished. So that'll be nice for Galen to go see four tombstones instead of 4 just plaques on the ground.
Yes, and let me just say before we get out of here, if you don't know, okay, I know most of the people in here, about Flora. If you don't know about the Flora fire, you can check out Meowzadong. This link, like, she's got all the info on this, all the videos. Coach Kev has some great videos on Flora. I've covered Flora. It's been months ago, but there are some great videos out there. This is a story that you want to hear and you want to get behind, because I'm telling you, it's going to make you mad.
And if you don't know, Flora's I think it's about what, 8 or 9 minute drive from Delphi.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that they're connected or anything like that, but it's Carroll County.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of the same players. Not saying that anybody has done anything, connected with the crimes, but you'll see the same names come up. This happened 3 months before Delphi, so there you go. There's that. Well, I guess I'm going to call it an evening, and I've enjoyed it so much. Anytime you want to talk about Flora or anything, Coach Kev, just
maybe I'll
send
have
me
you
a message.
over one of these times. And
Yes, absolutely.
When I have people on, we'll talk off the air at some point, but I like to ask, do an interview. They'll ask about you, how you got into true crime, that type of thing, and then go from there. But I definitely would like to do that with you. And I'll talk to you here. But thanks for having me. Thank you for everyone for all the comments and everything. And hopefully I brought you a couple of subscribers. I don't know how many I could bring, but a couple here or there.
Likewise.
Yeah. And I always share your stuff, and you always have good stuff. And I look forward to getting more information on this case and discussing this with you too. And all the crazy Discord chats with all the crazy people.
Woo, there you go. That's where the real drama is, right?
I love it. I love it in there.
All right. Thank you all so much for being here. Thank you, Jinx. Thank you, Indy Pam. And thank you, most of all, Coach Kev. And Lord, people, whatever y'all do, stay safe and try really hard to stay silky. Okay? Bye-bye. Let's see.